Well, hi everyone, and welcome to another edition of Adam's Music Box, where today I want to talk to you about one of the great pianists of all time and a personal favorite, and this is Stanley Cowell. Now, I cannot think of any musician who was so able to convey narrative through instrumental music. And in spite of instrumental music often being portrayed as an abstract art, the narratives that Stanley Cowell did portray through his instrumental art were absolutely poignant, necessary, stirring, moving, laden with direct human emotion. And this is a credit to his conceptuality regarding his music, his great technical virtuosity, and his ability to remain within a groovy texture, even when playing very avant garde and highly improvisational music. It never lost its essence. And that's what's so listenable and so compelling about Stanley Cowell. Even if you're not into jazz types of music, jazz derived music, put on a Stanley Cowell record, whether it's a studio recording or a live performance, and you won't be able to turn it off. Because of this narrative nature to his music, he draws you in, and once you start, you cannot stop. And that, I think, is a credit to any great musician, and he certainly fits into that pantheon. We spoke earlier on this channel few weeks back about cinematic music, music that really tells a story in a dramatic fashion. And in the world of jazz, that really is a title that I think is owned greatly, if not omnipotently, if you will, by Stanley Cowell. Now, his first album came out in the late 60s when he was very young, and he made his mark very poignantly with an album called Blues for the Viet Cong. This was in the midst of the Vietnam War, which was becoming increasingly unpopular. Students were protesting. People in the media were becoming, who were watching the media, were becoming more aware that all that glitters in the art of war is not gold. And in that album, Stanley Cowell really captured that. It's on the streaming services, but it's listed as Traveling Man rather than Blues for the Viet Cong. You can ask yourself why. He was a very prolific creator of recorded music and a great collaborator. In 1973, on his Strata East Records, which was among the first Black owned and operated record labels featuring and specializing in jazz in the world, he did a project called Handscapes with a group of musicians assembled for this performance called the Piano Choir. It was unique in that there were multiple pianos playing all at once in a largely improvised performance. And there were different kinds of pianos, from traditional grands to African style pianos, electric pianos, but all pianos and some percussion. And even though it's long out of print, it's on YouTube, you can find it elsewhere. Definitely check out Handscapes. Absolutely incredible. And you should also check out his work with longtime collaborators, the Heath brothers, including the wonderful saxophonist Jimmy Heath, the great bassist Percy Heath, and the drummer Albert Heath. Cowell was their go-to pianist. And again, the Heath brothers also captured this narrative style, this accessible jazz, whether it was acoustic or electric, they did both, whether it was funk-inspired or more avant-garde, it always had this groove. It always had this soul. This wasn't dispassionate jazz. This wasn't ethereal jazz. It was the jazz of the soul, of the human, of the spirit. And all of the albums that he played with on the Heath Brothers throughout the 70s, 80s, and beyond, you should absolutely check out. His style, as I said, was very complex yet accessible. He didn't hide behind sort of postmodernist musical tropes. He was making music for real people who wanted to venture beyond the stuff that normal record labels, or even that the normal record labels were feeding audiences, or that other musicians thought that they needed to give audiences. He dared his audience to think, and he dared his audience to dream, covering all sorts of topics from human psychology to Black liberation to the liberation of the soul in more general terms, to the things that we encounter both at a spiritual level and at a material level on a daily basis. Very romantic in the sense that there was passion in every note that he played and in every piece that he composed. Unfortunately, some of the Strata East records haven't been updated onto the streaming services, but a lot are, as are some of the albums that he recorded for other labels outside of his own very famous Strata East. A lot of the original pressings on Strata East records are now collector's items that can go for hundreds of dollars per record. So if you come across one at a popular price, it's very collectible, but at any price or on streaming, you're going to very much enjoy the music. People should talk about Stanley Cowell a lot more. He died in his early 60s in December of 2020, too young, frankly. But because he began his career at a rather young age, we have so much material that he produced. I hope that all of it gets released cohesively on streaming and on other formats, maybe audiophile, a Stanley Cowell box. Maybe that's asking too much, but who knows? But for you out there in YouTube land, check him out. You will not be disappointed no matter what kind of music you normally like. Thanks for tuning in. Like, subscribe, and we will see you next time. Take care.